There is a pervasive cynicism in the modern workplace that treats the corporate meeting as an inescapable, absurd tax on your productivity. You sit there, hour after hour, while nothing actually gets done. This leads to a distinct behavioral symptom. Managers begin artificially packing their calendars, treating back-to-back blocks of scheduled talking as a proxy for actual work, simply to project the illusion of being busy. But the optimizer's perspective offers a sharp counterargument. The meeting itself is not inherently toxic. It is a highly effective operational tool that is currently being wielded by entirely untrained leaders. To fix this, we have to uncouple the perception of performative busyness from actual, measurable operational output. The true enemy of the workplace is unstructured time. When a group gathers without enforced parameters, the room succumbs to corporate entropy, draining valuable cognitive resources as the conversation drifts. A recent post on the Retrieving Thoughts blog argues that by applying 7 specific, unyielding operational constraints, even the most chaotic gatherings can be engineered into lean engines of output. For the remainder of this episode, we are going to stress test these rules. We'll pit the cynical reality of daily office life against the optimizer's rigorous methodology to see if these parameters hold up. Passively accepting bad meetings as an unavoidable cost of doing business guarantees lost revenue. The only way to protect organizational momentum is to enforce these strict boundaries. Rule 1 establishes the bedrock of a lean operation, the 24-hour agenda. The document must be distributed a full day before anyone steps foot in the room. The immediate cynical reaction is that nobody actually reads a distributed agenda in advance, rendering the exercise entirely performative. But that misunderstands the agenda's mechanical function. It acts as a rigid boundary of scope. Without it, you're guaranteed a chaotic free-for-all, where disparate topics collide and no specific goals are met. Rule 2 builds on this boundary by aggressively limiting the guest list. Only active decision-makers directly involved in the agenda items are permitted to attend. Managers often face severe psychological resistance when trying to enforce this restriction. The pervasive culture of corporate fear of missing out makes people anxious when they aren't included on a calendar invite. To bypass this anxiety without bloating the room, organizers must operationalize the optional tag. This simple filter protects the schedule of non-essential personnel while leaving the final choice in their hands. If an individual only needs to be informed, not involved, the optimal strategy is to exclude them entirely and deliver a concise post-meeting written summary. If you fail to dictate an agenda and allow the invite list to inflate, you are mathematically guaranteeing that the collective hourly rate of every person sitting in that room is squandered. The underlying mechanic of schedule bloat is Parkinson's law, the axiom that work will inevitably expand to fill whatever time is allotted for its completion. This diagram illustrates Rule 3, the 25-50 method. By intentionally scheduling meetings for 25 or 50 minutes instead of the standard half-hour or hour blocks, you manufacture forced urgency and cap the allowable expansion of work. And looking at the monthly calendar view, we can see how those recovered 5 to 10-minute fractions compound rapidly across a team's schedule. They aggregate into uninterrupted, multi-hour blocks of focused execution that simply did not exist before. Condensing the timeline is only half the solution. Rule 4 dictates the absolute necessity of an active moderator to keep the newly compressed discussion on track. The source material compares an unmoderated meeting to walking a dog without a leash in a park full of distractions. Without someone actively pulling the conversation back to the center, you never reach your destination. To achieve this, the moderator must utilize time boxing. By allocating specific minute counts to each distinct point on the agenda, the host has the structural authority to seamlessly cut off tangential conversations. Critics argue that rigid time boxing feels unnatural and suffocates organic, creative brainstorming by imposing an artificial stopwatch. But reality proves otherwise. Without forced time scarcity and aggressive, deliberate moderation, open-ended discussions reliably devolve into heavily subsidized social hours. Rule 5 tackles the problem of captive audiences by establishing a culture of staggered exits. Participants are explicitly permitted to leave the room the exact moment their specific agenda item concludes. The friction here is cultural. Logging off midway through a call while a senior colleague is actively speaking violates deeply ingrained corporate norms regarding politeness. We have to reframe this behavior entirely. Dismissing a graphic designer before a 40-minute debate on monetization forecasting isn't rude. It is the ultimate sign of respect for a colleague's time. Rule 6 pushes this preservation of time even further by offloading synchronous attendance altogether through recorded sessions. Mandatory live attendance breaks workflows for distributed global teams. Forcing someone to align with a wildly inconvenient time zone guarantees a drop in cognitive performance and morale. The solution is to treat recorded meetings as searchable asynchronous databases. They become informational resources that employees can access and parse on their own schedules. Execution is frictionless. Standard platforms like Microsoft Teams or Zoom allow organizers to establish this database with a single click. Forcing end-to-end live participation on non-essential staff is an outdated metric of managerial control. It is not an indicator of actual collaboration. Even if a team successfully navigates the first 6 constraints, they frequently hit the ultimate operational point of failure, a total lack of documented post-meeting accountability. It is staggering how many complex, hour-long strategic debates conclude with absolute silence regarding what comes next, leaving everyone with a blank to-do list. Rule 7 introduces a non-negotiable mandate to fix this. Every meeting must end by explicitly summarizing the decisions made, assigning specific task owners, and locking in concrete deadlines. By immediately logging these assignments into shared tracking platforms like Confluence, Notion, or Trello, you eliminate the broken telephone effect, where critical details simply evaporate into the ether. Looking at these parameters collectively brings the central debate of this episode to a close. The cynical view of corporate bureaucracy and the optimizer's strict methodology finally align. The initial claim holds up to scrutiny. Meetings themselves are highly effective tools. It is the tolerance for unstructured time that actively drains an organization's resources. If there is no agenda, there is no meeting. Compress the calendar timeframe, allow irrelevant personnel to leave, and aggressively assign the resulting action items. To read the complete entry on retrieving thoughts and dive deeper into resources like the Fellow blog, check out the links in the description below. Adopting these constraints strips away the performative bloat. It turns meetings into engines for work, rather than an alternative to it. Stop talking and start doing.